Hi, I'm John Everett with Zurn Industries. Today I'd like to talk to you about something that we all need to understand, and I'm sure that you've seen it, I see it all the time, and that is what's causing the relief valve discharge from my reduced pressure principle assembly. Today what we'd like to do is go ahead and try to diagnose that discharge and see if we can figure out what's causing it. Now before we do so, I want to point out that there are natural conditions that can make the relief valve discharge. That's what the backflow preventer is for, and that's what it's supposed to do. Whenever I have a drop of inlet pressure, I can have relief valve discharge. Basically, as the inlet pressure drops, I'm starting to approach a backflow condition, so the relief valve will discharge, trying to reestablish a differential in order to make backflow not occur. So a drop of inlet pressure can lead to relief valve discharge. Also on the downstream side, if I have an increase of downstream pressure, that pushes against my second check valve, and that causes the pressure in the zone to rise, and that can also give me relief valve discharge. But in both of those cases, the relief valve discharge is generally finite. It's going to happen a little bit of dribbling and then it will stop. What I'd like to do is diagnose those conditions whereby we see water continually coming out of the relief valve, and it's pretty straightforward to do so. Now, before we do this, one thing that's very important, always with the backflow preventer, we're going to have to shut the water down for a brief period. So we want to go let the end user know that we are going to shut off the water. Now, I can't impress upon you enough that this is very important. We could be shutting off the water to a very critical application. Suppose we have people inside that are on kidney dialysis or something to that effect. We could really cause physical harm. So always let the end user know that we're going to shut the water off for a brief period. So in essence, what we're going to do here, we walk up to this valve, we've got some discharge coming out of the relief valve, and we want to determine what's causing that. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to shut off the outlet to the backflow preventer. When I shut off the outlet, if my relief valve discharge stops, what this tells me is I'm under a back pressure condition and my second check valve is leaking. So again, by shutting that off, I'm preventing that back pressure from coming into the valve, leaking across the second check, and then ultimately coming out of the relief valve. So again, if I see that discharge coming out, shut off the downstream ball valve. If the discharge stops, I have a leaking number 2 check valve and I'm under a back pressure condition. Conversely, if I close that shut-off valve and the discharge doesn't stop, what I want to do next is to induce a flow through the assembly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to simply open up test cock number 4. By opening test cock number 4, I now have fluid flowing all the way through the assembly. I develop a good differential across the first check valve. And what I'm looking for now is, does my relief valve discharge diminish or cease? If the relief valve discharge diminishes or ceases while I have test cock number 4 open, what that tells me is I have a fouled number 1 check valve. So in that case, I'm simply going to shut the valve down, open it up, and again, like we did with the second check, I'm going to correct that. I'm going to repair the check valve so that it no longer leaks, and that will stop that discharge. Lastly, just going through these steps again, if I've shut off my number 2 shutoff valve and my relief valve discharge doesn't change, I want to open test cock number 4. At that point in time, if my relief valve discharge does not diminish or cease, that tells me that I have a problem in the relief valve proper. That's most likely just the result of fouling with debris. In that case, I'll go ahead and shut my backflow preventer in, relieve the pressure, and again, I'm going to open up that relief valve and get inside there, clean up the rubber, and do whatever I can to make it stop leaking. So I think I'll just, for the sake of argument, go through these procedures again, just to make it clear. We walk up to the backflow preventer, we have relief valve discharge coming out. What we want to do first is shut off the outgoing ball valve. If my relief valve discharge diminishes or ceases, I now know, well, basically in this case it should cease. If I see it ceasing, I know that I'm under back pressure and I have a leaking number 2 shutoff or a check valve. Next, if I see no change, I want to open up test cock number 4 and induce a flow through the assembly. When I open up test cock number 4, and while it's flowing, if my relief valve discharge diminishes or ceases, I know I have a fouled number 1 check, and I need to correct that by cleaning it up or replacing the rubber. Lastly, while test cock number 4 is open, if I see no change in relief valve discharge, that tells me that the relief valve proper has got a problem, most likely fouled with debris, and I want to shut in my backflow preventer and clean up the relief valve accordingly. Now, the great thing about this little quick troubleshooting procedure is it doesn't matter if it's a 1/4 inch RP or a 10-inch RP, and it also doesn't matter who manufactures it. All RPs work exactly the same way. So this quick test can be used regardless of the manufacturer and regardless of the size. It'll help you troubleshoot and diagnose why you are getting that relief valve discharge.